All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Trading Bitcoin with your host, Vays. It's Saturday for almost the entire world, except perhaps Australia. All right, hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode. Been listening to YouTube, obviously, so sound will go on when you hit the live button, it opens the YouTube thing. All right. Let's go to the chart, sticking to the format. Ideally 7 minutes, no longer than 10 for an executive summary on the price of Bitcoin. And then we're probably going to talk more about the Ukraine situation. I'm not going to spend too much time. I've already said everything that I needed to say on it. I don't think any new serious developments have occurred in the last 12 hours, so there won't be that much. Okay. Price-wise, we are sitting right at support. We have avoided disaster of closing below the intermediate term moving average on a monthly chart. We got about 3 days to go, maybe 2. And even though we did not breach this moving average at the close, it is very possible that we will. The Bitcoin doesn't always bounce off of this moving average. In fact, the only time Bitcoin has ever bounced off this moving average was when the moving average first came into existence. We can say that it kind of bounced off over here, but not really. Okay, weekly chart. The weekly chart, the week is coming to an end. It's already Saturday. We still have Sunday. The stock market isn't trading, so not much of a correlation will happen when the stock market is not trading. So the weekly chart remains in this downtrend. I like the bullishness of current candle, but that is not enough for me to turn bullish on this chart. Had this candle occurred somewhere down here in the $20,000 range, I would be a lot more optimistic and bullish off of a lower zone. But because this reversal candle is happening not in a reversal environment of a prolonged downtrend, it's happening off the rebound already. This candle is not actually all that meaningful. So I will wait and see how next week turns out. I highly doubt that next week is going to create a trading opportunity on a weekly chart unless we are having a sustained close above $43,000 and then getting ready to break the lucid SAR in the following week. Our allocation chart has not changed from the last time I did this video. I'm now at 2 videos a day. We are increasing on the intermediate moving average, but that doesn't really matter because the short-term moving average is below it and decreasing. This is a really rare situation that doesn't normally happen. The price is actually stuck in between them. This has 2 bullish markers, being that the intermediate is rising and the price is above the short term, but the short term is falling. Yes, next candle, the short term will probably be rising, but let's see how the price ends this candle, which basically just started. We still have over 3 days to go in this candle. I do not see me putting a bullish allocation on this candle unless we are closing above both moving averages and the candle is almost at the end, like with less than a day to go. Okay, so we remain in a cash position probably for a little while. Here's the daily chart. At the moment, I am viewing this as a rejection of the moving average. I am not viewing this as a green star candle in need of entry into a position. I granted, I do trust the MRI more than I trust moving averages, but not the star part of the MRI. What I trust the MRI for is these arrows that come in above the candles. I would rank these arrows above the candles above the moving average. Now, granted, you have an arrow above the candle here coming off of the low, but at this point in time, I was anticipating a slightly lower low on the actual green arrow, not the orange one. The market reversed on the day of, basically at the end of the day of, at the end of the first day of Russian invasion into Ukraine. We have sustained this move to the upside but not in any meaningful way for me to change my outlook that the trend is still to the downside for now. Yeah, I'll comment on the Ukraine situation. I see your comment, Samira. I'll address it. Okay, where are we here? Short term, 1 hour chart, 4 hour chart, consolidating. That is a bullish pattern. I'm leaning bullish on the 4 hour chart. What about the 1 hour? The 1 hour is also bullish. We're above all the moving averages. They're starting to cross over, and we rallied here. You have the MRI, also a yellow arrow, MRI warning. We're okay for now this weekend, but let's see what Monday brings. Well, GBTC is closed for the weekend. Not really much to add there. All right, that is the executive summary on Bitcoin over. Let me do a quick executive summary on the traditional stock market. Before I do that, the financial summit is happening in Dominican Republic in August. I'll talk more details on that coming up after Unconfiscatable is over. Unconfiscatable, those last couple of carnivory seats are still hot. We are down to 2. So grab your tickets. We got about 4 or 5 days to go. If you're planning to come, please buy it today. Please don't wait until Thursday to buy the ticket to show up on Friday. That makes it very challenging on us. As usual, everyone waits till the last minute. There are no mask mandates. There are no restrictions in Las Vegas. There is a vaccine mandate to enter the US, which definitely hurt our the size of our event. But we're still expecting an amazing crowd. We'll have 300 to 400, probably closer to 400. Still a small event, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. Come and join us. Still got to do a couple of interviews with some of these awesome sponsors. We're going to have an art gallery. The schedule's out. Here's the schedule. It is still subject to change a little bit, but here's the schedule. It's very difficult to make the schedule. It's difficult to make a schedule in general. I want to make sure that speakers have ample time, and we are going to have a law panel, a couple of developer panels. I want to see NVK argue with Bobby Lee over security of wallets. It's going to be great. Really good. Check out the agenda. You can click on these. All right. Follow us on YouTube, by the way. That's where the videos will be. The Unconfiscatable YouTube channel. Okay, traditional markets. Let me try and do a executive summary here as well. Obviously, all markets are closed. Oil has pulled back on the fact that, you know, Russia isn't annihilating all of Europe. So you can tell that in the oil price. Like, the markets can kind of tell you what's happening in geopolitics. So this oil price going down tells me that the situation in Ukraine, while obviously horrendous and bad, and way more Ukrainians are dying than Russians because the Russian military against Ukrainian military and some Ukrainian civilians. But this tells me that this is unlikely to escalate into World War III. This move in oil tells me that they will end up coming to the negotiating table, though I could very well be wrong, and I'll talk more about that after I do this summary. What does it mean for the price of oil? I still think oil is going way higher, but not today, obviously, because the market's closed. Same thing for gold. I think gold's going to go way higher as well. I think it broke resistance line, similar to how gold broke this, like, how many years? Almost 10 years. Not 10 years, sorry, 5 years. This 5-year high. It broke the 2016 high in 2019, so 3 years later. Once it broke this, both Tyler Jenks and myself became big bulls. Man, it's so sad that Tyler Jenks passed away. I would have loved to be talking to him about the geopolitical situation, how it relates to the markets. I mean, he was trading during some of those conflicts. He started trading in the 70s, so he was around watching the markets and probably trading them during the Vietnam War. How would the markets react removing Russia from SWIFT? That's a good question. It's hard to say. Obviously, Russia is prepared for the removal from SWIFT. They had to be ready. They had to know this was coming. Markets I talked about yesterday, nothing really to add here. We're going to look at some stocks maybe next week. Well, wait, next week I'm at the conference. Oh boy, I don't know if I'll be able to stream. I don't even know if I'll be able to keep up with the Ukraine-Russia news. Okay, so those that want to stick around for political and perhaps vaccine commentary, though I don't really talk about COVID much, bigger issues have arose. I know the West doesn't see this as a bigger issue than wearing a mask, but bigger issues have shown up, and that's what I'm going to talk about now. All right, I'm going to refill my cup of tea. Those that don't care about geopolitics are free to go. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Otherwise, stick around. I'm going to try to keep it to 15 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to promote a couple of videos from the following channel because I thought they were excellent. I'm going to leave this here for you as I refill my cup. Too early for tequila. So go ahead and put these videos in your queue, but mostly the two Russian videos, right? I mean, like watching the video explanation of inflation. I just wanted to see how his other videos were because I ran across this video early this morning and I watched it. I'm like, wow, that is excellent. It's actually exactly what I've been saying, but he said it way better. So this is sorry, not the China one, my bad, pointed to the wrong video. This one, the Ukraine-Russia one. That one was also good, by the way. The Ukraine-Russia explained, but this was weeks ago. It's before the Russian invasion. And then this one was released this morning, and that this guy did is Indian with an Indian perspective out of India. And this was also excellent. So this is the pre-war and the post-war. And China one was also good. The relationship between China and Russia. It's I recommend it. Put those videos in your queue. I followed Amit. It was great, and I'm gonna get a cup of tea. All right. So let me do an executive summary of what I said yesterday, and then I'm going to address some of your questions. What is Leah up to these days? Leah is the CEO of Valkyrie, which has Bitcoin ETFs. They should have been the first Bitcoin ETF, but somebody beat them to it by like a week. And she's got a shot at being the first spot ETF if the SEC ever allows it. Okay, real quick. Oh yeah, I'm gonna probably play that later. Executive summary on yesterday. I explained the NATO situation, and these were the original NATO countries in in black. The dark blue countries were added, before the fall of communism, in the Soviet, before the fall of the Soviet Union. Okay, then you have the middle blue color. They were added in 1999, and then you have a couple of more. And Russia doesn't want any more NATO countries, which is why they've been very aggressive against Georgia and Ukraine for trying to join NATO, which would allow the US to put nuclear missiles on their territories. There's nothing they can do down here. So several treaties were done. Russia claims that in 1991, the US verbally promised not to extend NATO beyond Germany. And verbal promises between countries that change presidents and regimes kind of mean absolutely nothing. Written contracts barely mean anything. And here we are with a written contract in 1994 that demilitarized Ukraine with nuclear weapons, not full demilitarization, but nuclear weapon demilitarization in Ukraine. And Russia, UK, US all agreed to defend Ukraine and not, invade Ukraine. I'm not sure about the non-invade part, but definitely to protect Ukraine. I got to reread this. I read it a little while ago. But Ukraine was supposed to be left alone if they don't have nuclear weapons. Russia has invaded Ukraine. So did Russia break this agreement? Well, Russia is looking at it when Ukraine decided to apply for NATO and potentially put American nukes on Ukrainian soil, that Ukraine broke this agreement. And there were other agreements in 2014-15, the Minsk agreements, after Russia took Crimea to kind of create peace. And those agreements have basically amounted to nothing at this point, as Russia states that Ukraine is not giving independence to the Russian region of East Ukraine, and that gives them the right to invade Ukraine. Some agree, some don't agree. I'm trying to stay as neutral explaining this to my audience as possible. I picked my I'm not picking Russia's side here, but as Chris Rock says, I actually understand where Putin's coming from. I get it. It doesn't justify murder of people, but this is the political situation. So from here, where do we go? So I still have not listened to the speech. It's an hour long, and I have to listen to it at normal speed in order for me to kind of read the English subtitles and listen to Russian at the same time. So I do need to free up an hour to listen to Putin's speech before the invasion. I did listen to Putin's speech after the invasion. All of these links are in the video description, guys. I listened to Putin's speech after the invasion, and I can vouch for the fact that the translation is very accurate. It is better than I would have wrote it if I was writing an English translation of what Putin said. It is incredibly accurate of what he said. Okay, and I do advise people to listen to this because the US media will not play this. Okay. Where we go next? I was following this account yesterday, and Twitter reset. So, oh no, it's not an account. I have not been listening to the US mainstream media on the situation. I do not trust the US mainstream media. I believe they are biased. And I am doing my absolute best not to even walk past a TV playing American media on the Ukraine-Russia situation, okay? I'm trying to avoid that. I am trying to pay attention to some independent people on social media that are keeping up with it. I am, but I'm trying to stay away from the mainstream narrative because I know how biased it is from everything they have done the last 10 years that I've been witnessing. All right, so yesterday in Spaces, spoke to G. I jumped into a space that he was hosting. I've never crossed paths with him before. Also a fellow Bitcoiner. I hope he's a maxi, but it doesn't even matter at this point. But I found him to be very well up to date on the Ukraine situation, spoke very well, in a very neutral way. And interesting, this was interesting. I just saw it this morning. This is what I mean. This will be my only comment on the COVID situation. A group of researchers from the University of Washington has shown for the first time that it is possible to encode malicious software into physical strands of DNA, so that when a gene sequencer analyzes it, the resulting data becomes a program that corrupts gene sequencing software that takes control of the underlying computer. So how many conspiracy theorists have just been vindicated by this statement? I can't, you won't even be able to count, okay? Now, here's what I want to say. So yesterday during Spaces, we had like 400 people in Spaces. More people watch this YouTube channel. Someone mentioned the situation on Snake Island, okay? This is an island right off the coast of Ukraine in the southwest tip of Ukraine. And when someone said Russia took over that island, I immediately said, yeah, Ukrainians surrendered. And I was immediately made look like a fool in my own Spaces that Ukrainians did not surrender. They, fought to the death, and there was a video and a guy with a cell phone, and Russia blew them up and killed them. And I'm like, maybe I was thinking of a different island, because that's how I had perceived it originally. And yesterday, the consensus was that these guys fought to the death. And today, it is revealed that no, they actually surrendered. And Russia reported on it accurately, and Ukraine lied about it. And the reason for that lying is for morale purposes. Again, I understand, but this continues to play into the narrative. Where is the truth, and where can you get truth? Okay, if you replay that Spaces, you hear me say the words, yeah, they surrendered, and I'm like, shit. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. You guys are clearly seeing videos that they were killed, and this is what's happening today. A Ukrainian government released video, audio, and claimed Snake Island defenders fought to the death. Russia claimed they surrendered, released video. Now, Ukraine Ministry of Defense acknowledges that they surrendered. Okay, so my initial understanding of the situation was correct. I was led to believe by people in my own Spaces that I was wrong. It turns out I was correct. Okay. Yes, there's misinformation everywhere. How can you trust any source? Well, eventually the truth comes out, right? Yes, you should not have trusted the original video from Russia. The original Ukraine video sounded more believable. You keep digging and the truth eventually comes out if there isn't censorship. But remember, America is pro-Ukraine in this fight for obvious reasons. The West is pro-Ukraine. They're not helping them, but they're, cheering them on. They're cheering them on. U.S. cheered them into war with Russia, and now they're cheering them on to somehow win it. Okay? And if there is censorship going on, it's going to be anti-Russia in favor of Ukraine in the West. And I am in the West. Now, if you are in Russia, there will obviously be propaganda favoring Russia, right? But Russia is also on a mission to try to prove to the world that they are not bad guys, okay? See, the US is not trying to prove to the world they are not bad guys, right? The US feels that they are the good guys, right? And the US has ramped up its censorship in an exponential way to remove the fact that maybe they're not so great on a geopolitical, warmongering scale. Okay. So it's a very different perspective. Russia is trying to, find a way to look more favorably upon the world, but invading Ukraine and killing Ukrainians is not helping their case. Okay, so that I wanted to clear this up, okay? Because also yesterday on my video, the consensus was that the Ukrainians on that island basically did not surrender and immediately got killed. But situation is different. So let's where to next? Okay. So live camera. Look, do I know for a fact this isn't a recording from well, I'm not sure where this would be a recording from, because I would think there would be more cars driving around if this was a recording. Okay, so these are just the simple things you have to assess, right? This is where, think about it critically, right? If this was a recording, where are the cars? Is Kiev the capital of Ukraine? This like have the zombies taken over, right? Is this the Walking Dead? And that is what makes me believe that this is real live footage of Kiev, Ukraine, which is the capital. What you don't see is tanks, bombs, missiles, fire, monster destruction. Now, granted, this could be carefully chosen angles and cameras to not see that. It's possible, absolutely possible. Okay. Now, all over the Twitter space, I don't know if Jeet has it. I don't know what this is. I have not seen this before. It's my first time watching this. I don't know what this is. I can turn audio on. My first time watching, I don't know what this is. Oh, I think that's the full video of when that car got run over, maybe. Maybe not. All right. I'll read it. I'm curious. Zoomer on TikTok captured a weird exchange. Russian mine resistant, ambush protected. Okay, wheeled vehicle firing from while reversing. Ukrainian vehicle proceeding forward. Neither vehicle had weapons to deal with the other. Okay, so what he is saying is the Russian vehicle is backing up. He's saying the Russian vehicle is backing up. And if you're backing up, you don't want to engage. The Ukrainian vehicle is engaging. Now, obviously, the Ukrainians don't want Russians on their soil. They're going to fire at them. Russians are going to fire back. And this is how many Ukrainians are getting killed. Goes back to Putin's statement here that he doesn't want to kill Ukrainians. He doesn't want to take over Ukraine. Putin is attempting to make it clear that he doesn't want to do that, but he is willing to do it if demands are not met. So what I was going to show you the, yeah, see, I don't buy this comparison. I buy the comparison that Klaus Schwab is Karl Marx and people like Trudeau are more like Hitler, even though Trudeau has not initiated any military action, but trust me, he wants to. So what I wanted to pull up is, and a lot of people are sending me that, the civilian building in what I believe is Kiev, that had a missile hit it. So as far as I know, no one was hurt. That building, everyone already left that building. And it's one of the very few examples of a Russian, probably Russian. Again, we don't know who sent that missile. We don't know. I'm going to lean to the fact that it was a Russian missile that was probably aiming for a military target that ending up hitting a civilian target. Is that an excuse for a Russian missile to hit a civilian target? No, of course it's not an excuse. But the point is that so far, I have not seen anything that, you know, blatantly states Russia wants to kill Ukrainian civilians. So I don't have it handy. It's going to be hard for me to like find it and pull it up, but I think you guys know what I mean. Okay. Now, let me, I tried to keep this 15 minutes and I already failed. So back to this. So this is a great video. I can't play them both, even because I don't want to play them on like fast speed. The reason I don't want to play them on fast speed is because people watch me on fast speed. And now you're going to be watching me on fast speed, watching a video on fast speed. So, and this is also a 30-minute video. It explains a lot. It explains the Ukrainian presidential history, the Russian complaints. And at the end of the video, he says, I don't think there will be a conflict. They will resolve it. He was wrong. And obviously, nobody wanted a conflict. You can say that Russia really wanted a conflict, but Russia wanted to resolve this peacefully, but they didn't, and they, you know, pretty much declared war in Ukraine. I'm not scared of being detained by Russia. I have no real reason to go to Russia. other than to speak at a Bitcoin conference, which is not that important in my life. So it has nothing to do with me going to Russia. Me being neutral has more of effect of me wanting to go back to Ukraine by trying to stay neutral on this and try to explain the situation to my viewers.
Destroying 70 years of...
Okay. I didn't mean to click on that. Let me go back because I have it preset at the right time. So the person that keeps saying you're staying neutral on this because you're like, well, what would you like me to say? Here's a question. What would you like me to say? That I condemn Russia for killing Ukrainians? Yes, I condemn Russia for killing Ukrainians. Do you want me to enlist? Do you want me to go grab an AK and fight for Ukraine? Because one of my parents was born for Ukraine and potentially starting a nuclear war between Russia and America because an American went and fought for Ukraine? Well, like, what would you like me to do? Those are the two extremes, right? I'm definitely not going to be pro-Russia on this, right? So I have two options. I can be pro-Ukraine, 100%, and, you know, condemn Russia and join the U.S. Propaganda machine. Or I can try to stay as neutral as I can, considering I am both Russian and Ukrainian. Tone, my son is Russian born. Is it true he would be drafted visiting Russia? It is possible. But I think he would have to be a Russian citizen for that. Don't hold me to that. If he has a Russian passport, remember, you can be Russian born, but not a Russian citizen. A lot of it, I think it depends on whether he's a Russian citizen. Yeah, Henry, that's exactly what I was saying. Any opinion other than Russia is evil and we have to destroy Russia, any opinion other than that opinion is a Russian apologist. Just like any opinion on Democrats are the greatest thing in the history of the world is a white supremacist. Okay, so I'm going to play this. Now, I strongly recommend so let me explain it. So this video talks about the conflict between Russia and Ukraine before guns were fired. The first half of this video explains the conflict between Russia and Ukraine after the guns were fired. And by guns fired, Russia went into Ukraine. But he talked about something very interesting at the end of the video. And that's why I'm going to play it. Please confirm that you have audio. Okay, you're going to have okay, so please confirm that audio is coming through and it's clear.
In the end, I just want to quickly add a few more points. Do you remember when did the communist ideology take over the Soviet Union? It was in 1917. The 10 years from 1917 to 1927, the Russian Empire saw a radical transformation into a socialist state. And then in 1922, the Soviet Union started. So from 1917 to 1922, it was Soviet Russia. And after 1922 till 1991, it was the Soviet Union. And before 1917, it was the Russian Empire. And Nicholas II was the last emperor of the Russian Empire, which had a massive extension across Eurasia since 1721. So basically in 1917, there was a Russian Civil War, where the Bolsheviks took control. Who were the Bolsheviks? They were far leftist Marxist followers, and their founder was Vladimir Lenin. Anyhow, I'm not going to make this a history lesson. Perhaps I'll make a separate video on the history of the Soviet Union. Anyways, the point that I'm trying to make is that it was in 1917 when communists gained control over Soviet Russia, and their aim was to destroy capitalism and create a socialist society. The thing about communism is that they don't believe in culture, religion, or in the idea of the nation. So naturally, Lenin, Stalin, then Nikita Khrushchev, Boris Yeltsin, all of them destroyed the Russian culture, the nationalist sentiments, and did not do anything to revive it. And then in 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed, 15 republics, which together formed the Soviet Union, all got separated. The Western countries started preaching to the world that they have completely destroyed the Soviet Union. They have created a new history. The end of the Cold War was seen as a victory of democracy over communism. And that is where the world started thinking communism is associated with dictatorship. Actually, that is correct, but you also have to understand that at the ground level, communist ideology takes birth from radicalization. At first, you need a breeding ground. After that, you need to charge the public, making people oppose some ideas. It could be against the government, culture, religion, and then emerge as a sustainable and a viable political option for those radicalized people. So the leader is not the problem. The ideology is the problem. That is why communist ideology does not care about territorial boundaries. Two groups of people living in a separate country can have similar views if they are communists. That is why you will see the same ideology in worker unions, employee unions, railway unions. Wherever there is union, you will get hints of communist ideology. Always remember, communists have always participated in charging people. They have an anti-establishment mindset. They will tell you things like you are poor because that person is rich. They will talk in such a sweet manner and convincing manner that you will not even realize when you got radicalized. That is how they charge people. So communism is a mindset. So after 1991, the Western powers started preaching to the world that they have destroyed the Soviet Union. They have created a new history. They created a narrative. End of Cold War is seen as a victory of democracy over communism. And that is where the world started thinking communism is associated with dictatorship. But what happened was by 1991, communism was out of Russia. As I said, communism is an ideology. It is a mindset. So it left Russia in 1991 after destroying 70 years of Russian culture. But then it moved deep into the Western society and it destroyed their culture, values, everything. That is why you will see that today in the United States, Canada, and European countries, there's a huge identity crisis. All of the material progress, their per capita GDP, their democracy, prosperity is of no use. People are neck deep in consumerism. They have gone woke. They don't even respect their elders. All they want is more rights. There is no culture. There are no values. There are no ethics, no feeling of nationalism. Unfortunately, the same Western lifestyle is slowly spreading in India. Anyhow, on the other hand, after 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed, Boris Yeltsin became the president. Communists have a symbol, if you remember, hammer and sickle. On December 25th, 1991, the communist flag was lowered for the last time over the Kremlin, thereafter replaced by the Russian tricolor. That means Boris Yeltsin became the first president of the Russian state. He was the president till 1999. Even he did not do anything to revive the old Russian culture, the religious values, and the nationalist sentiment. And if you remember, in 1999, he handed over the charge to Vladimir Putin. And since then, he was either the prime minister or the president. So you can say Vladimir Putin is the first leader in Russia to have revived the old Russian culture, religious values, and national sentiments. And that is how the Western media tries to show Vladimir Putin and Russia as a villain. The Democrats in the United States are actually the communist mindsets. And you can also see that today, the United States has charged Ukraine so much that it has to fight alone with Russia. And what is the United States doing? It is asking the world to come together. And on the other hand, Russia is saying, no one will interfere in this fight. Stay out of it. So Russia is actually fighting for its motherland, for its territory, and for also its own people who live in Ukraine. Honestly, the Western power had to just stay out of this. Ukraine got carried away in sweet talks of the Western countries. Unfortunately, today it is in trouble. I hope you found this video informative. Thank you for watching it.
All right, so let me just double check that you guys can hear me as well. Yeah. So you want to watch the beginning of this video. I didn't want to play the whole thing. And also you kind of want to watch the prequel to this video where he explained the historical dispute between Ukraine and Russia in a prior video. I also recommend this, China and Russia. Actually, it's like near the end. Maybe I will play it.
Try and understand.
It's an 8-minute video. I don't want to play the whole thing, but I want to just show a part about just different types of political systems. Yeah, here. Again, I recommend the whole video. So I'll start here. I think it's the right. I didn't prepare for this part.
Forward. If you look at both Russia and China, in today's time, these both countries are actually capitalist countries. However, it is also a complex question whether Russia and China are truly capitalist countries. So Russia and China are capitalist economies. But if you look at the Russian and Chinese political models, they are not an example of democratic governance. I don't have the right word because words like autocracy, dictatorship are not right. If you look at the leadership of Russia and China, they are not a product of nepotism. They have proven themselves and have been placed wherever they are based on their performance. Although if you look at it from the outside, China's one-party system or Russia's political party, United Russia, looks authoritative. But inside these political parties, people have to prove themselves, right? Only then they will be promoted. In other words, meritocracy is there, but it is not like the Western democracy. So if you see, there's actually an invisible fight, or you can say the war of narrative, as to whose governance style is the best. Western American style democracy versus Russia and China's own model of governance. Now, let's not take any side and be absolutely honest to ourselves. Forget about Russia and China's model of governance. If you see the Western American style democracy, it has dominated for a long time. And frankly, today in the 21st century, it is also causing massive chaos and dysfunction. Too much democracy is actually destroying the foundation of almost everything in our society. You cannot make policies on important issues if you have too much democracy. Because today, no one can convince anyone, even if you have facts. Everyone has become an activist. If you see, many of the problems that we see in our societies these days have been created by people who care more. You will hear people saying, I'm more aware of the science. I have read the research. I care about the environment. I care about poor people more than you, etc., etc. Too much democracy has actually led to the decline of common identity. That's what leads to an identity crisis. Europe is facing it. America, Canada is facing it. If we don't have a common identity, then we will be picked apart one by one. And that is how civilization is destroyed. And if you see, that is what the big technology companies are doing with artificial intelligence, targeting individual audiences, manufacturing perception for them. I'm not saying democracy is bad, but too much is not good. Too much of anything is not good. So anyhow, this Russia-Ukraine conflict can actually turn out to be a turning point in building a new world order. And China's interest is to succeed at weakening the global appeal of democratic states, institutions, and norms, so that it can create a space for flaunting the strengths of its own governance model as an alternative. I hope you found this video informative. Thank you for watching it.
Again, the beginning of that video, he kind of explains the relationship between Russia and China. And then he ends it with just trying to explain the difference in the governance model. And yeah, I'm not asking anyone to pick sides. Obviously, my family fled the communist Soviet Union, and many people fled the communist China, or it was a little harder to, well, you could have fled the communist Soviet Union with a Jewish exception towards the end of the fall. And the Western style democracy has been great. But as you guys watch my channel enough, you know how critical I have been of the current Western style democracy, especially the democratic side of it. I've picked my sides when it comes to the political parties in the West. You know where I stand there. But I'm not on this side yet. I'm still a fan of the Western style democracy, but not from a democratic angle. See, that's the difference. My number one priority is anti-socialism that leads to communism. That's my number one priority. My number one priority is being anti-Marxist. And to me right now, the biggest champion of Marxist theories is Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, is the leader in Marxist ideology. So the more Western leaders get on board with the World Economic Forum's Marxist ideology, the more I want to stay away from the Western-style democracy. Where to go is a billion-dollar question. I think someone is saying a lot to blame is on the Federal Reserve. No, I think there's somewhere between a little and a more than a little to blame on the Federal Reserve. Stop blaming everything on the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve does not make monetary policy. Sorry, Federal Reserve makes monetary policy. The Federal Reserve does not make fiscal policy. The bigger culprits of the problem are the politicians, not the Federal Reserve. Harvey Williams, I'm going to read your question. Let's go back to the price of Bitcoin. Your question is, Tone, don't you get tired of trying to explain things to people who, for some reason, in this day and age of misinformation, are simply just too dumb or too lazy to do their own research? Well, that's the thing. I don't think people are too dumb. I really don't. I don't think people are too dumb. I think, and I don't think people are too lazy to do their own research. I don't think it's a lazy issue. I don't think it's a dumb issue. I think on average, people in the West are very intelligent. But I think it's the problem is being brainwashed by the mainstream media. I really think that's the problem. And it's just this cycle of electing horrendous politicians, and which feeds the propaganda on the mainstream media. And this is the main reason why I was a Trump supporter. I wasn't a Trump supporter because I liked Trump. I was a Trump supporter because he's not a politician. He's not a politician, okay? I think the best president for next term is a Republican governor. Notice I specifically said governor, not a Republican senator, not a Republican congressman. I think it's a Republican governor is the best option for an American president next year. And I hope it's not Ron DeSantis, because who happens to be a Republican governor, because you will potentially lose Florida, like one of two states of freedom that people actually want to move to in America. Okay. And the reason it's a governor, the reason why a governor is always better than a senator is because they're further removed from the toxic swamp of Washington, D.C. A governor is in their own state. Your senator is not in your state. Your senator is having drinks with other senators every night in Washington, D.C. All right, I'm gonna leave it here, guys. This video has been on for an hour. I really tried to keep it shorter this Saturday. Oh, there was one specific question that I said I would answer early in the beginning, and I don't think I did. But the question was something like, Russia and Ukraine have been played by the U.S. I would say more so Ukraine than Russia. I mean, I think Russia was fully aware what the U.S. was doing in, creating additional tension between the countries. So Russia was fully aware, and eventually Russia decided to invade Ukraine. So I don't think Russia was played by the U.S. They were aware of what's going on. Yeah, it takes a generation to reverse a mindset. Once a person is lost, they're lost. The best video on this is the mass psychosis video from Academy of Ideas, which is another amazing YouTube channel to follow, by the way. So you want to follow Academy of Ideas right there. I haven't gotten a notification from them. Yeah, they haven't released a video in a while. It's been a month. It's been a while since they released a video. So I need to go back and watch some of the other ones. So where's that one? Where's the... Right, the manufacturing of mass psychosis video. This one, 10 months ago. I think that's the same one as this. That's the same video. I believe that's the same video. Just this one's just animated. That's the only difference is this is animated and that one is the original. I like the animated version. I think that's the one. And this explains everything that is happening. So this was here before Dr. Malone said the word mass psychosis on Joe Rogan's show. So this video was already around. This is a 10-month-old video. It's been there. So it kind of explains a lot. I can't believe to let this channel stay on YouTube. It's I can't believe this channel has not yet been censored. Okay. And it takes an entire generation, maybe 2 generations, to get rid of the mindset. Okay. Like the mindset is that Russia is still communist. Communism fell in 91. It's been 30 years. And people in the West still think that Russia is communist because they re-elect the same leader. Like this is how long it takes to change a mindset. All right. All right, guys, I'm going to continue to be hated by my Ukrainian friends that will probably never talk to me again. But unlike the last issue of, okay, here's another reason why I am trying to stay as neutral on this issue as possible, is because the last time it was clear to me what, I'm not going to say this is going to come out bad no matter how I say it. No matter how I say it, it's going to come out bad. It's easy for me to pick a side in the US politics because one side is Marxist ideology and one side isn't. It's easy for me to pick a side in the vaccine situation, the COVID mess, right? It's easy for me to pick a side in the COVID mess because one side is Marxist in the ideology of totalitarianism, and the other side is freedom. It was very easy for me to pick a side. The medical stuff, that was just basic research. Very, very simple to figure out what the right path is to get vaccinated at a certain age and health level versus not get vaccinated at a certain age and health level. That was just, for me, that was a joke. That was easy research to immediately know whether you should or should not get a vaccine. But in this particular case, it is very tricky because of the Marxist ideology spreading across the West, the Western democracies, as was explained right there in that video. And I've had this view for a long time. It's great that someone did a very concise animated video for it that I just played for you guys, right? So what happens is I condemn Russia for going in and killing Ukrainians. But the reason why it's happening, not the main reason, but one of the main reasons why it's happening is because the Marxist Western democracy ideology has spread very, very far. And while at first that ideology can give you a boost in economic prosperity, it ends in complete and utter disaster. Okay? This is where we kind of get back to Hitler, who, when he first became the leader of Germany, he did give Germany economic prosperity after the disastrous World War I reparations that caused hyperinflation, right? Hitler came in to fix it all. And at first, you had this, bump in productivity. And he gave people something. But he had the same Marxist ideology of a totalitarian leader that wanted to destroy a specific group of people. And people were brainwashed into it. And once again, I don't know if Trump was president today, this would or would not have happened. I don't know. But I can tell you this with absolute certainty, Biden is not making the situation better. And from the moment Biden got elected, this situation immediately, the match has been lighting on this situation. All right, guys. Hope these videos are educational. That's all I really want to do with this channel, is make people think. So thank you all so much for watching. Definitely check out Academy of Ideas. And I will see you all on the next one. Bye, guys. I'm hoping the Russia and Ukraine go to the negotiating table. And I know not a single Ukrainian wants to surrender to Russia, but no one, I don't think NATO is coming to help. So if you want to save Ukrainian lives, I don't know. I don't know a good solution to this. This should have never had. This could have been avoided, and that's all. That's all. That's all. This could have been avoided. And if it gets escalated, it could lead to a nuclear World War III between the Marxist takeover of Western democracy versus Russia and China that have a different political model. Bye, guys.